Shall we begin, Michael?
Yeah, yes.
The first question we have is from Anand Sundaram. If in this life we are not able to make the 180-degree turn towards oneself, will someone remind us of Bhagavan's path in our next life? Will we be exposed once again to Bhagavan's books or his photographs to remind us? Did Bhagavan ever speak about that elaborately? If so, please let me know the verse as well. Thank you.
Right. Bhagavan didn't answer. That is, we can't expect to find an explicit answer or a detailed answer from Bhagavan to every question that comes up. But all the answers that we are looking for can be found in his original teachings. That is, we have to infer a lot. When in Bhagavan's verses, he implies a lot more than he says explicitly. So this is why Sravana and Manana are necessary. Sravana means paying close attention to the words of Guru, of Bhagavan. So we have to repeatedly study his original writings, which aren't very many. It's just a few hundred verses. There's the verses of Arunachal Stuti Panchakam, which is 108 plus 9 plus 11 plus 8 plus 5. It's not a lot. It's and then there's Upadeshundya, 30 verses, Uludunapti, 30 verses. Some of the verses of Uludunapti and Abandam are original verses. And then Apalapatu, Atma-vichara, Ekama Panchakam, and some of the Upadesha Tanipaka. That's the miscellaneous verses. So it's not a huge amount. But if we repeatedly study and constantly think about Bhagavan's teachings as expressed by him in his own words. And there's also, we've got other things also. There's Guru Vachaka Kovai, and there are the explanations of Sadhu Om in books like Path of Sri Ramana. All these should help us to build up a comprehensive and deep understanding of Bhagavan's teachings, from which we can understand a lot. So for this question, for example, I can't point out any place where Bhagavan has explicitly answered this question. However, there are many things that are implied in his teachings from which we can understand what is the correct answer to this question. That is, what is reborn, what goes from life to life, is ourself as ego. Every life is a dream. So the dreamer of all these dreams is ourself as ego, not ourself as we actually are, but only ourself as ego. When the body that we now identify as I passes away, what we take with us essentially is just our vasanas. Our vasanas are what constitute the karana sarira, the causal body, or the anandamaya kosha, or what is also called the chittam, the will. This is what we take with us. And all the vasanas that constitute this karana sarira are the seeds that sprout as well, the Vishaya vasanas are the seeds that sprout as Vishayas. So the physical body, the prana, the mind and the intellect are all there in seed form in the Karana Sarira. So when we begin to dream another dream of another life, our vasanas which manifest as all these, as these 5 sheaves, the other 4 sheaves. So since we take with us our vasanas, when we start a new life, we will start with the same vasanas that we had at the end of a previous life. Vasanas are not, that is, vasanas are inclinations. They're the seeds that give rise to likes, dislikes, desires, attachments, and so on. So the type of interest that we have in this life, the same type of interest will manifest in the next life, because whatever we're in, it's according to our vasanas that we're interested in this or that. Some people are interested they spend all their life working just to earn a lot of money. Some people are interested in politics and in gaining political power. Some people are interested in name and fame and show business and this or that. People have so many different interests. These type of the interest that we have we cultivate in this life will go along with us into a next life. So if we are passionately interested in Bhagavan's teachings in this life, and we try to follow his path, we are cultivating vasanas in this direction. So these vasanas will come with us. And in each life, a prarabdha is allotted to us. The prarabdha that is allotted is not just a random set of fruits of our past actions. The prarabdha that is allotted is tailor-made to suit us at our present stage of spiritual development. So if we have vasanas that incline us towards an interest in this type of in following this spiritual path, particularly in following Bhagavan's path, the prarabdha will be tailor-made to suit these vasanas, because the reason God allots, when God allots our prarabdha, he allots it in such a way that will be most conducive to our spiritual development. So people sometimes think that God is punishing us for our sins of the past. God's aim is not, God means Bhagavan or Guru, it's all the same. God's aim is not to punish us. God is interested in one thing and one thing alone, in our eventual salvation. So the prarabdha is allotted in such a way to help us nurture those vasanas which will incline us towards this spiritual path. So if we have been blessed in this lifetime to have these vasanas that make us interested in following this spiritual path, the prarabdha in any future life will be tailor-made to suit these vasanas, and to create the circumstances for these vasanas to further develop. So definitely, if we are interested in Bhagavan's life, in Bhagavan's path in this lifetime, we will, in some way or other, find our way back to this same path in future lives. So the answer to the question is, if in this life we're not able to make the 180-degree turn towards ourselves, will someone remind us of Bhagavan's path in our next life? Certainly. The prarabdha will be so arranged that we will somehow be exposed again to Bhagavan's teachings, and will be naturally attracted to those teachings because we're already attracted to them, and we will continue from where we left off. So we can be sure, if whatever effort we make in this life towards following this path, even if we don't reach our eventual goal in this lifetime itself, we will whatever progress we've made in this lifetime will carry on in the next lifetime. The circumstances will be so arranged that will be conducive to us learning again about Bhagavan's teachings, and again, because we're already interested in his teachings, we'll naturally be attracted to his teachings, and we'll continue from where we left off. We'll continue trying to to follow this path. This is what is this is expressed in Tamil by a saying, Vittukorai Tottukorai, which is very difficult to translate adequately into English. But the basic idea is whatever is left incomplete in one lifetime will resume in the next lifetime. So when Bhagavan was asked about how it was so easy for him, but at such a young age, he was naturally, without anyone telling him about this path of self-investigation, he was drawn to this, and he, without any effort, just when that fear of death came, his mind naturally turned back within to investigate who am I. How this happened, Bhagavan said, Edo vitukarai totukarai. So something that was left incomplete in previous lives resumed. Basically the meaning of what he said. So Bhagavan himself has confirmed this. That is, whatever be our vasanas, those vasanas we will take with us, and any vasanas that are conducive to our making progress in the spiritual path, the prarabdha will be so arranged for those vasanas to come to the surface and to be nourished and cultivated. So the answer is, just because we leave this body, we will continue. It doesn't mean that that's the end and we've missed this opportunity. No, whatever progress we've made in this lifetime will continue making the same progress in future lives. Bhagavan once said, whatever effort we make in this path will never go to waste. It all has an accumulative effect. Krishna also says, similar in the Bhagavad Gita, he says if you, he used the term yoga brashta, those who have fallen from yoga. But what that means is those who haven't reached the final goal, they will be born in such, he said they'll be born in a such a family. That means in such circumstances that will be conducive to their continuing whatever they have, whatever spiritual practice they've been doing in this lifetime. So I hope that's a clear and adequate answer to that question.
Yes, thank you, Michael. So I think there is a follow-up question in the chat. Chandrasekharan, do you want to ask the question or you want me to?
Yes. Let's say if it's connected with this, let's.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chandra. Yeah, you can read your question.
Yeah, I was just asking if if this is just a temporary provisional answer given to someone that is not willing to accept the current state as a dream, because if you accept that current state as a dream, then essentially you going from one dream to the other is death. So that's my question.
Yeah, well, the whole of our present life is one dream. That the dreams we have at night are dreams within a dream. That's why when we dream at night, we dream ourselves still having the same identity we have in the waking state. If we experience ourselves as I am Chandrasekhar in the waking state, in dream also we experience ourselves as the same Chandrasekhar. So the dreams at night seem to be a continuity of this dream of our present life. When this dream comes to an end, this identity, whatever identity we have in this life, whether I am Chandrasekhar, I am Michael, I am Thiru, whatever the identity may be, that identity is completely lost. But that identity is for whom? Who is the I who says, I am Chandrasekhar, I am Thiru, I am Michael? That I is ego. And that I is what, I is the dreamer. when one dream comes to an end, that dreamer will subside in a sleep-like state, but will again rise again and will continue dreaming. So the next life is another dream. That in the next dream, we are taking, whatever vasanas we've cultivated in this life, we will take on to the next life. That is, they carried on from lifetime to lifetime. And over the course of many lifetimes, that's over the course of many life dreams, we can say, the vasanas are slowly changing. The vasanas that we had in past lives, we may have been very interested in. At one time, we were probably very interested in earning money, accumulating wealth, or we were very interested in very external things. But now, over the course of time, we've lost interest in many of the things that we would have interested us in the past, and now we are becoming more and more interested in this, following this spiritual path. So these vasanas that we have now, that is the vasanas that the set of vasanas that we have at the end of one life, the end of one dream, the same set of vasanas will be there at the beginning of the next dream. And as I say, everything that we experience in a dream, including, I mean, this is all a dream, everything that we experience in dream, Bhagavan has said, it's all a projection of our Vishaya vasanas. However, we don't get to choose what we project, because in a dream, though the whole dream is our creation, while we are dreaming, we are not experiencing ourselves as the creator of the dream. We're experiencing ourselves as a part of the dream. That is, in a dream, we take ourselves to be a person in that dream world. That person we take ourselves to be is not the dreamer. The dreamer is the I that takes itself to be that person. So it's not Chandrasekhar who is dreaming this. There's an I that is dreaming all this, and that is in that dream it's aware of itself as I am Chandrasekhar. So because we experience ourselves as a part of our creation, the creation is not under our control. So what we create, in other words, what vasanas we project as this world and as this life, is selected by grace. That is, the vasana, whatever we experience in this life, is the fruit of our past actions, but not a random selection of the fruit of our past actions. There are countless actions we've done in the past, the fruit of which we've not yet experienced. So all the unexperienced fruits of past actions are stored in what is called sanchita. Sanchita simply means a heap or a pile. So that's the accumulation of all the fruits of our past actions which we haven't yet experienced. Because as a general rule, in each lifetime, we accumulate more fruit than we experience. Because we've got many more desires than we are able to experience. So we're always generating more fruit. So the sanchita is a huge pile over countless lifetimes. We've accumulated so many fruit, but we haven't yet experienced. So from that huge pile, God will select whichever fruit are most conducive to our spiritual development. Those fruit is what is allotted as prarabdha for each life. So, as I say, the prarabdha will be tailor-made to suit our vasanas. So, people sometimes say, if someone commits a crime and they're put in prison, does that, because being put in prison is part of a prarabdha, does that mean they're committing the crime is also part of a prarabdha? Not necessarily, but they have such a prarabdha because they have criminal-like inclinations. So a person who is, for example, a gangster or a criminal doing all sorts of things to try and gain wealth and power and exploit other people, that person has very strong vasanas in of that kind, so that type of prarabdha will be allotted to us. So a saintly person won't have a prarabdha of being a gangster. I mean, a person who, when I say saintly, a person of spiritual type inclinations will not be allotted a prarabdha of being a gangster, because it just doesn't fit. So the prarabdha is tailor-made to fit the type of vasanas we have. So the prarabdha will, but if we have inclinations to follow this spiritual path, those are the type of inclination that grace wants to, these inclinations we have to follow this spiritual path, this interest in these, in knowing who am I, the interest in trying to surrender ourselves, this is all being cultivated in us by grace. So the same grace that has cultivated these type of vasanas in us will work to increase those, to nourish and make those vasanas bear fruit. So the prarabdha will be tailor-made to suit our spiritual development. So as I say, if we are blessed to have these type of vasanas, which have been cultivated in us by grace over the course of many lifetimes, now we've reached a certain stage, the prarabdha will be allotted in such a way for us to continue making progress in the same path. Because we all say we want liberation, but we don't really want liberation. We have some slight interest in it, but we've still got many other desires and attachments. Bhagavan once said, everyone who comes here will say that they come only for liberation. But if I show a small sample of liberation, all the crows will fly away and I'll be sitting here alone. That means we tell ourselves we want this. We know this is what we should want, but still we don't want it enough. We still have too much interest in other things. But grace wants us to want only this. So grace will work in such a way to cultivate those type of interests, those type of likings. So whatever bhakti we have in this lifetime, the next lifetime will be so arranged to cultivate that bhakti further. So the same type of path will be drawn to. And there are many different types of spiritual path according to suit people of different levels of spiritual development. So we have been fortunate to be drawn to this path. So we'll whatever, if we don't attain liberation in this lifetime, and we are born again, that if we continue dreaming, the next lifetime will draw us back to this type of spiritual path. Those who are drawn to other spiritual paths, they will go through those spiritual paths until eventually they'll be drawn to this type of spiritual path, because this path of self-investigation, this is the ultimate path. Because the ultimate goal of all spiritual endeavor is complete surrender, which is synonymous with annihilation of ego. Everyone talks about self-surrender, but most people don't really understand that surrender means losing oneself completely in God. Many devotees, for example, they think the goal is to be eternally serving God. So they think they'll go to the world of their Ishtadeva, Vaikuntha or Kailasa or Goloka or wherever it is, and there they'll be eternally serving their God. But that's not complete surrender. Complete surrender is when we give ourselves entirely. So all these other spiritual paths, they're all steps on the way towards this ultimate spiritual path. So everyone, the same grace that is taking care of us is taking care of every jiva. It's just different jivas are at different levels of spiritual development. Some jivas are still at the level of trying to achieve the fulfillment of their desire on the principle of might is right. So these are the type of people who become criminals or who become ruthless business people or very ruthless politicians or whatever. And I'm not saying all politicians are bad, but I mean there's some like the type who become dictators. That's according to their level of spiritual development. But in course of time, they will also progress, and eventually. So it's not. But when we say this is the ultimate spiritual path, we're not saying. But we're superior to others. We've been through all that. We've been through all these things. In the past, we would have been criminals, murderers, all sorts of terrible things we would have done in the past. But by His grace, we have slowly progressed to where we are now. The same grace that has brought us to this point will take us further on to the final goal. Because the sole aim of grace is to save us from ourselves, from this ego.
I have one follow-up to this, but it's not directly related to whether we'll get, carry over to the next life or not, but related to dream. I can hold on my question through if you want to give
No,
him the floor on it.
if it's connected, let's continue.
Okay, so I guess to me the theory or like the mental concept that the current waking is another dream is so helpful because then I don't need to worry about responsibilities and consequences of what I do now on tomorrow and day after, next month, whatever, right? So in other words, by treating the current waking as a dream, it seems to compartmentalize every moment of life, so to speak, rather than treating the whole waking as a long life. And then so rather than that, if I treat the current waking as another dream, and then I go into the next dream, and that becomes the waking, and so on. So by treating, but when we bring the concept of a quote unquote life, then it automatically gives a continuity and something special about the current waking state, and then the other dream states that we go through in the night become somewhat like a sub in a different level of hierarchy
Well,
to that main dream.
it is in a certain sense in a different level of hierarchy because they're dreams within a dream. But
Right.
this state is no more real than those dreams. It's all entirely a dream. And about not worrying about the future, we need not. Bhagavan has taught us many things which should make us understand that we need not worry about the future. The very fact that he said, whatever is destined to happen will happen. What he wrote in the note to his mother, Endrum naduvadadu, enmuechikanum naduvadu. What is never to happen will not happen in spite of any amount of effort. Nadavadu entadeseinum niladu. What is going to happen will not stop in spite of any amount of obstruction. Idube tinnam, this is certain. So when he says like that, we should understand we do not have to concern ourselves about our external life. We do not have to concern ourselves about where the next meal is coming from, where we're going to be living next year, how we're going to provide for our family. That's already determined according to prarabdha. These things are not in our hand. And whatever we need to do, for example, if we're married and we have a family, we have certain responsibilities to our children. Even if we're not married, we may have responsibility to our elderly parents, everything. Even these things we do not have to worry about because whatever we need to do for the prarabdha to unfold, we'll be made to do, as Bhagavan said in the first sentence of that note he wrote for his mother. Avarava prarabdha prakaram adakanavan angangirundu artavipan. That means in accordance with the prarabdha of each one, adakanavan, he who is for that, angangirundu, being there. That means being in every place, implying being in the heart of every one of us, Artavipan, he'll make us dance. We'll be made to act in accordance with our prarabdha. So if it's our prarabdha to be married and to have 10 children and to spend all our life working to support them, we'll be made to do that. We will have no option. But that doesn't stop us following the spiritual path, because who is doing all these actions? It's the body and mind. The spiritual path is separating ourselves from this body and mind. So whatever the prarabdha of this body may be, we need not identify ourselves with that. We are trying to detach ourselves from this person by holding on to ourselves as the knower of all these things. All these things are part of the dream. We are not the dream. We are not part of the dream. We are the dreamer. So attend to the knower. Don't worry. Attend to the experiencer. Don't worry about the experiences. So the more we turn our attention inwards to find out who am I who am experiencing all this, the more we'll separate ourselves from this person we seem to be and from all its experiences. That doesn't mean that this person has to stop doing everything. No, the person will be made to do whatever it has to do according to its prarabdha. So if we understand Bhagavan's teachings correctly, he takes a huge burden off our shoulders. As Bhagavan said, we have one responsibility and one responsibility alone, and that is to surrender ourselves completely by turning within. So Bhagavan has asked us to do such a simple thing, and even that simple thing we're failing to do. So we are very hopeless devotees, hopeless seekers, but we try our best, and his grace supports us. So we have nothing to worry about. Even if we have to take 100 more lifetimes, we need not even worry about that, because his grace, the same grace that has brought us where we are now, will eventually take us to our final destination. So let's not worry about anything. Let's just pray to him for ever deeper love to follow this path. As he sung in verse 7 of Arunacha Manimalai, "En nam meduvo adu sevai." Whatever be your thought, whatever be your wish, you do that. Kaneyundran karalineo kadal peruke taruvaye. Just give me, oh beloved, just give me a flood of ever-increasing love for your feet.
So, Michael, are you then saying that the current waking state is in some way special because it is rather this life, and then it's the
nothing special at all.
Okay.
The waking state is for whom? It's for this person we seem to be, but we are not this person. So just because our whole life is one dream. The dreams we have at night are dreams within this dream, but it doesn't mean the bigger dream is any more real than the small dream, because it's all part of the same dream.
Got it. Makes sense.
The same I that is now aware of itself as I am Chandrasekhar is also aware of itself as I am Chandrasekhar in the dream, and it's a continuity of the same thing. In dreams we have memories. We remember our childhood. We remember where we went to school. We remember who our parents were. So it's just a continue. It's all part of the same dream.
Okay, that makes sense. So life is
Yeah.
like essentially spans all the dreams, and then
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. The next question we have is from Anand D. I have read that Ramana Maharshi says that the mind turned inward is the self. In other places, he says we need to destroy the mind. Could you please clarify this?
Right. Okay. Very nice question. Yes, in a couple of places, Devaraja Mudliya has recorded in Day by Day, where Bhagavan said, when someone asks Bhagavan a question, something to the effect, what's the difference between the mind and the self? Here, the self refers to Atma-vichara, what we actually are. So what's the difference between the mind and the self? Bhagavan said there's no difference. The same mind, when turned outwards, is called mind or ego. When turned inwards towards the self, it is the self. What he means by that is there is only one eye. This one eye, when it rises, identifying itself with the body, it looks outwards. It attends to things other than itself. But this eye is nothing different from the pure eye. The pure eye is what is called Brahman. So one of the things, a very famous saying of Adi Shankara, but Bhagavan also used to quote, Brahman Satyam, Brahman alone is real. Jagat Mithya, the world is Mithya. Mithya means it's unreal. Jivo Brahmeva Napara. The Jiva is nothing other than Brahman alone. So this Jiva is the ego. Brahman is what we actually are. They're not two different eyes. They're one and the same eye. The difference between, well, there is no difference there, but the seeming difference, and Bhagavan had made it very clear in Upadeshundiya. He expressed it very clearly in verses 24 and 25 of Upadeshundiya. What he says in verse 24 is, Irakamiyakal isa jivagal onuparayava undipara upadi unave verundipara. What that means is, by their being nature, God and soul, Isa and Jiva, are just one portal, one substance. So essentially they're the same. And what is that one substance? That's what he calls Irkamiyakeva, being nature. So in their being, they're one and the same. So our being and God's being, it's the same being. They're not two different things. What makes us seem different is what he refers to as upadi unavu. Upadi means what we identify ourselves as. So now we're aware of ourselves. The person who asked this question is Anand. If we're aware of ourselves as I am Anand, Anand is the name of a person. That person consists of 5 sheaths: a body, life, mind, intellect, and will. These 5 make up this person called Anand, or the person called Michael, or the person called Tiru, or the person called Chandrasekhar. Any person is made up of 5 sheaths. These 5 sheaths are not what we actually are, but there's an I that identifies itself and is aware of itself as I am this person, this bundle of 5 sheaths. That I is ego. The person we take ourselves to be, the 5 sheaths, the body, is an upadi. It's a false identification. Upadi is often translated as adjunct or limiting adjunct, but there's no one word in English. I mean, adjunct is quite a good word, but it doesn't fully capture the sense of upadi. Upadi means a disguise, a false identification, something masquerading as something else. So what we take ourselves to be, that is the upadi. But we who take ourselves to be that is ego. But that ego is ego, as Bhagavan often explained, it is chit jada granti. Chit means awareness. That's a pure awareness. That's what we actually are. Jada means what is not aware. That is their upadi. These bundle of 5 sheaths, they're all jada. They have no awareness of their own. Why people seem to be aware, it's not the person who's aware, it's the I that is aware of itself as I am this person who is aware, and so the person seems to be aware. That I is ego. So that I is a mixture of that pure awareness and the set of adjuncts which are jada. So chit jada granti means it's a knot that seemingly binds chit and jada. Of course, chit is never actually bound. Chit is ever free. But in the experience of ourself as ego, we seem to have been limited to this set of adjuncts. So I'm just trying to remember what the question was again. Oh yeah, so there's this same I, when we rise as ego, we grasp the form of a body as ourself, and we consequently become aware of so many other forms. So our attention is constantly turned outwards. If this same I that is now attending to all these external phenomena, these veli vishayam, this bahya vishaya, external phenomena, this same I, if it turns its attention back within to see who am I, to see itself, it will subside and merge back into its being, and it will remain as being. That being is Satchit. That is what we actually are. So, but we seem to be something else so long as we're looking away from ourselves. When we turn our attention back towards ourselves, we see we're nothing but Satchit. That is, has anyone ever seen ego? When we look within to find out who is this I who is aware of itself as I am Michael, or I am Thiru, or I am Anand, or whatever, that we don't see a separate, that I as a separate thing. That I, to the extent to which we attend to it, it subsides back into its underlying being. So what is called the self, in other words, Brahman or Atma-svarūpa, what we actually are, that is the being I. The ego is the rising I. It rises, identifying itself with a set of adjuncts. So long as it's looking outwards, it seems to be this set of adjuncts. But when it looks within to see what it actually is, it finds nothing but the pure being I, which is Brahman. So that's why Bhagavan said the same mind, when looking outwards, is called mind. When looking inwards, it's called the self. Except Bhagavan didn't use the word the self, because that's an English term. The term he would have used that is svarūpa. That's what we actually are. Svarūpa literally means own form, our own form. That means ourself as we actually are. So there are not two eyes. It's just that the I mixed and conflated with adjuncts is always looking outwards. That same I looks within, it merges back into its being, and it remains at that being. And by merging back into the being, thereby the mind is destroyed. Because truly speaking, there's no such thing as mind at all. We seem to, mind, and in this context, mind and ego are synonymous. Bhagavan says in verse 17 of Upadeshundiya, Manatin uruve maravaduchava manamenumondrile yundipara. When one investigates the form of the mind without forgetting, there's no such thing as mind at all. What that means is the form of the mind there means what the mind essentially is just this I that is now aware of itself as I am this person, I am this body. If we attend to that I, not to what it identifies with, but to the I as mere awareness, we will find that there's no, that the adjunct conflated I doesn't exist at all. Only the pure I remains. So that is what is called the destruction of the mind. By seeing what we actually are, we will see that no such thing as mind ever existed. A simple analogy for this, if you're walking on a path in the dim light of dusk, and you see something on the path, you're afraid because you think it's a snake. Bhagavan said, no, it tells you, no, it's not a snake. Look at it carefully and see. You look at it carefully and see, oh, it's just a rope. What has happened to the snake? Has the snake run away? Has it been killed? No. Metaphorically, we can say the snake has been killed. But truly speaking, there never was a snake there at all. By seeing what it actually is, the superimposed illusion that it's a snake is removed. Likewise, when we see what we actually are, the superimposed delusion called ego is removed forever. So seeing ourselves as we actually are is the destruction of the mind. And in order to see ourselves as we actually are, we need to turn within to see what we actually are. So it's these two statements, they are perfectly aligned. They are pointing to the same thing. Is that clear to everyone what I've explained?
Yes, Michael.
Yeah.
So is there any follow-up question on that one? Okay, I'll move on to the next question. If all that appears is just an illusion, how should I perceive and react to the sufferings of other beings?
Who is the I who is saying all the other beings are an illusion? That I is the I that identifies itself with a person, with a body, which is itself part of the illusion. So long as we see the appearance of other people, those other people are every bit as real as the person we seem to be. So when we see others suffering, often we can't do anything to alleviate others' suffering. But if we can do anything to alleviate their suffering, if even a smile or a kind word or something helps to alleviate their suffering, we should do so. Because so long as we see this world is all an illusion. But we who see the world see ourselves as a part of that illusion. Because we never see this world without identifying ourselves as a body, which is a part of this world. So as far as our external behavior is concerned, we should behave in an appropriate manner according to the circumstances. Yes, it's all an illusion, but to us the illusion seems very real. Just because this is all an illusion, just because it's all a dream, we don't step out in the middle of the road in front of a bus. Because we know if we step out in the road in front of a bus, there's going to be consequences. We're going to end up a nasty mess and in hospital, or maybe in a mortuary. We don't know. So so long as we are experiencing this dream, our actions in this dream have consequences. So we have to act in an appropriate manner. So all the other people in the dream, they're all an illusion. But so is the person we take ourselves to be. So if we do something kind to help a suffering person, the suffering person is illusion. We who are doing that are also part of the illusion. So it's appropriate to so long as we mistake ourselves to be this body, we have to behave in this world in an appropriate manner. We have to follow the principle of ahimsa, trying to avoid causing harm. And trying to avoid causing harm means sometimes if there's an opportunity to alleviate suffering and we don't take that opportunity to alleviate suffering, that itself is doing harm. So it's not only our actions, it's our failure to act that sometimes is causing harm. So we need to live in a way to try to minimize the sufferings that we see in the world. But that shouldn't be the aim of our life, because this is part of the dream. So long as we experience ourselves as part of this dream, we should behave in an appropriate manner. But we should remember, the truth is this is all a dream. And in order to wake up from this dream, we need to investigate the truth of the dreamer. Who is the dreamer? The one who is experiencing all this. So to whom does all this dream appear? To me. Who am I? We turn our, not that we have to ask the question, but we have to, Bhagavan says, investigate to whom. That means we need to turn our attention back towards ourselves to find out, who am I who am experiencing all this dream?
Thank you, Michael.
Is that a clear answer to that question?
Yes, yes, I think so. The next question we have is from Jyoti. Sometimes I forget doing self-enquiry for days or even weeks. How to make sure I stick to the practice?
Practice, practice, practice. That's the only solution. There's no shortcut. Why do we forget? Because we're so interested in other things. So if we find we're often forgetting, we need to reduce the interest we take in things other than ourselves and increase the interest we have to know who am I. If we were as interested to know who am I as we are in seeing the latest post on social media, reading the news, watching a film, finding out who won the cricket match or football match or all these things, that is, we take interest in so many things. All of us do. All of us have so many interests. Because we're interested in so many things, we attend to those things. If we had so much interest in knowing who am I, we would very quickly find out what we are. But the problem is we have more interest in knowing other things than in knowing what we ourselves are. So in order to why we have so much interest in other things, because we've been cultivating that interest in the course of so many lives. So in order to cultivate interest in knowing who am I, the only way is to practice this more and more. And to support us in the practice, we have Bhagavan's teachings. So by often reading and thinking about Bhagavan's teachings, that will increase our interest in knowing what we are. So we'll have more and more liking to know what we are, and we'll therefore make more and more effort in this path. But the key is practice. That is, Bhagavan's teachings, studying Bhagavan's teachings, that's Sravana. Thinking about Bhagavan's teachings and trying to understand them, that's Manana. They are very necessary, but they can never be a substitute for the actual practice of self-investigation, self-attentiveness. They are there to support us in our effort. So that practice of self-attentiveness, that is most important, and we will gain, if we want to increase the extent to which we practice, we just have to practice more and more, because the more we practice this, the more we'll wean our mind off its interest in other things, and we'll cultivate this interest in knowing ourselves. That interest in knowing ourselves is what is called bhakti, the love to know who am I.
Thank you, Mike.
Which is true love for God, because God is nothing. God is that which is shining in the heart of each one of us as I.
I'll move on to the next question. I'm trying to make sense of why Bhagavan would pray to Arunachala. Does pure being awareness need to pray? It has been a point of confusion to me. Please clarify. Thank you.
Pure being awareness doesn't need to pray, and pure being awareness doesn't pray. When we say Bhagavan prayed to Arunachala, we are taking Bhagavan to be a person, the person who composed this Arunachala Stuti Panchakam. We need to understand what Bhagavan actually is. What Bhagavan actually is pure being awareness. That means he's not this person that he seems to be in our view. But that pure being awareness, that is our own reality. That is what we actually are. Because we have so much interest in looking outwards, it's necessary for our own being to appear outwardly in the form of Guru in order to tell us to turn within. So Bhagavan is nothing but our own svarūpa. But he has appeared outwardly in human name and form in order to teach us to turn within. And the key to turning within is love. As he often said, bhakti is the mother of jnana. So by singing these 5 hymns to Arunachala, he is these are all for us teachings. That is, he's exemplifying the path he wants us to follow. So all the prayers in Aranatya Stuti Panchakam are teachings for us. We should learn what we should pray for. So long as we take ourselves to be a body, we cannot know God as he actually is. What God actually is infinite and therefore formless. We can have an idea God is infinite and formless, but that's just an idea. We can never know God as infinite and formless without knowing ourselves as such. So in Aranatya Ashtakam, for example, Bhagavan says, trying to think of your form as formless is like, what does he say? In verse 3, he says, oh yeah. If one thinks of your form as formless, or if one meditates upon your form as formless, one is like someone who wanders the world to see the sky. That is, the sky or space is ever present. We don't have to go anywhere to see it. But because to us, the sky seems to be some big blue dome that's covering the world, and it's touching the horizon over there. Therefore, if I go to the horizon, then I'll be able to see the sky closer. If we go like that, we'll never be, however far we wander, we never get closer to the sky. But actually, the sky is what is ever here and present. Here and now, it's the space. So it's omnipresent. So if we try to think of God as formless, our idea of God as formless is just an idea. That idea is a form. So we cannot know God as formless. So whatever idea, whatever conception we have of God, even if our conception of God is that God is formless, that's still a form. That idea God is formless is just an idea, which is a mental form. So we can't, as Bhagavan says in verse 4 of Uladunaptu, if oneself is a form, the world and God will be likewise. That is, we cannot form a mental conception of what is formless, because formless means it's infinite. It's got no limits. But our mind is finite, so the finite mind cannot conceive of the infinite. We can have a vague idea, yes, he's infinite, but we can't experience that infinite and formless reality which is God, as it actually is, without knowing ourselves as such. Because if God is infinite, he cannot be other than us. So we cannot know him as something other than us. We can only know him as ourselves. But if we know ourselves as this body, we don't know ourselves as we actually are. So the only way to know God as he actually is to know the reality of ourselves. That's what Bhagavan implies in the next line of that same verse 3, when without thinking one thinks deeply of your form, form will cease to exist like a salt doll in the ocean. What that means is, when he says thinking without thinking of your form, what is the true form of Aranachala? The true form of Aranachala, that is the svarūpa of Aranachala, is Atma-svarūpa, the svarūpa of ourself. So thinking deeply of your form, without thinking deeply of your form. When he says without thinking, what does he mean by that? That is, attending to anything other than ourself is a thought, it's a mental activity. But attending to ourself is not a mental activity, because to the extent to which we attend to ourselves, we as ego will subside. When we subside, all our mental activity subsides along with us. So what he refers to as thinking without thinking is being self-attentive, which is we ourselves are the true form of Aranachala. That is, our svarūpa is the svarūpa of Aranachala. So by attending to our own svarūpa, we thereby subside And that's what he means by form will cease. When he says form will cease, it implies one's own form will cease. But when our form ceases, all forms cease. Because as he says in verse 4 of Ulivanaptu, if oneself is a form, the world and God will be likewise. If oneself is not a form, who can see their forms and how? It's only when we mistake ourselves to be a form, but God seems to be a form. So long as we take ourselves to be a form, it's appropriate to worship God in form, because we can't know him in any other way. Even if we have some vague idea God is formless, that's just an idea. That's just another a mental form we have, a mental conception of God. So Bhagavan prays to an external form, which is Arunachala, but that the outward form of Arunachala is just like Bhagavan is not the body that he seemed to be. Arunachala is not the hill that it seems to be. It is for our benefit, it's manifest in that form. But the reality of Bhagavan, the reality of Arunachala, is our own svarūpa. The svarūpa of Bhagavan, the svarūpa of Arunachala is Atma-vichara, which is what is ever shining in our heart as I. So praying is necessary. What is prayer? Prayer is nothing but the heart crying out for that. That is, if we really love to know what we actually are, our heart will yearn for that. That yearning of our heart to surrender ourselves completely, that itself, that yearning is a prayer. So Bhagavan has expressed that yearning, but should be in the heart, will be in the heart of every true aspirant. He's expressed it in words, in the form of all these beautiful prayers in Arunachala Stuti Panchakam. But this is all for our benefit. Bhagavan doesn't say he's done this for our benefit. He said these verses are poured forth from his heart without, they just came spontaneously. But we can understand by inference that grace made those verses come out for our benefit, to show us the way, to show us how intensely we should be yearning for that.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I just want to say that for me, it just doesn't, like I prayed, my whole life. My father taught me about God when I was little, and I had this relationship. And after these teachings, I saw no sense in it anymore, because ultimately, aren't we supposed to be doing the practice and turning within? For me, prayer seems to be an external activity, if that makes sense. I mean,
Yes.
I'm very confused, or I don't know what.
If you are able to turn your attention within, that itself is most powerful prayer.
Okay.
The reason we pray as an external activity is because we don't yet have sufficient love to hold on to self-attentiveness.
Okay.
So our heart yearns for that. As I say, the prayers in words, those words are just an expression of the yearning in the heart.
Okay.
Merely repeating words is not prayer. Prayer is a yearning of the heart.
Okay.
So long as we experience some separation from God. We experience, so long as we experience ourselves as a person, we don't experience ourselves as God.
Yeah.
So you as a person are not God, but God is your reality. Your very being is God. So now of course, we're never separated from God. How can we ever be separated from God? But we seem to be separated from God because we've limited ourselves as this set of adjuncts, this person that we take ourselves to be.
Mm-hmm.
So we in order to know God, we need to know ourselves as we actually are. In order to know ourselves as we actually are, we need to turn our whole attention within.
Yeah.
There's nothing easier than turning our whole attention within, but why don't we do so? because we still have so much liking for other things. So there's a battle going on in our will between our liking to turn within and our still all the strong inclinations we have to go outwards. So it's all a matter of love, ultimately. That's why Bhagavan said, Bhakti is the mother of jnana. Bhagavan also said this spiritual path is nothing but a battle going on in our own will between our outward going inclinations, and that is the Vishaya vasanas, that's the inclination to attend to Vishayas, external phenomena, and Sat vasana, the inclination to attend to our own being. So this battle is going on. Bhagavan said, this is in the Puranas, the Indian mythological stories. There are lots of stories about battle between good and evil. Rama killing Ravana, Durga killing Mahishasura. There were so many stories like that. What these represent is the battle between the Sat vasana and the Vishaya vasanas going on in the heart of every true devotee.
Okay, thank you so much.
Prayer is nothing but that longing we have to know what we actually are.
Okay.
And Bhagavan has taught us what we should pray for. People go to churches, to mosques, to synagogues, to temples. What are they? Most of them are praying for. They're praying just for the well-being of themselves and their family and their dear ones and all these things. All this is already provided. What we are to experience in this lifetime, it's already been determined by God. So we don't have to tell him, we need this, we need that. What we really need is to have ever-increasing love, to surrender ourselves completely to him. That is what Bhagavan has taught us.
And when we need, if we're in this inability to turn within, then we're praying for that strength to do it.
We're never actually unable to turn within. The problem is we don't have enough liking to turn within. So that's why prayer is so essential. Because prayer is we are, if we pray to God for what God wants us to pray for, we are trying to attune our will to his will.
Yes.
Which is a part of surrender. Surrender begins with trying to surrender our will to God's will. So we need to attune ourselves. Whatever you will is what I will. He wants nothing more than for us to be happy. To be happy, we have to subside.
Nice. Thank you.
So we have a question from Sadasiva. Do you want to read your question, sir? Please go ahead.
I was wondering is it safe to say that complete surrender would include the possibility of a supreme being? How else could we account for delineation of the karmas?
From our point of view, from a relative point of view of Jiva, there seems to be a supreme being. But the truth is, there is only one being. And that being, that is the being of ourself and the being of that supreme being are one being. So surrendering means now we've risen as ego. We seem to have separated ourselves from the supreme being by limiting ourselves as this finite creature that we now seem to be. So surrendering means we need to merge back into the one underlying being that is the reality of God and the reality of ourselves. Have I answered your question or not? I'm not sure.
Yes, but surrendering back into myself, turning the mind back within. How does that have anything to do with the prarabdha karmas that were that I was to experience this birth?
The prarabdha karma is what we are to experience. Who is the experiencer? when we are turning our attention back within, we're turning our attention back towards the experiencer. So we are seeking to know the reality of the one who is experiencing all the prarabdha karma. The prarabdha karma is there so long as we look outwards. But when we look within, there's no prarabdha karma. It's only for the outward turn mind where prarabdha is there. So the prarabdha is, whatever prarabdha we've been given, is what is most conducive to motivating us to turn within to find out, who am I who experiences prarabdha? Who is this I who has done all these karmas in the past and is now experiencing the fruit of those karmas?
Okay, so I would have to say that that only when the mind turns outward does the dream itself appear.
Yes.
Okay, so
Because to the
so-
extent to which we turn our mind within, the dreamer, namely ego, this I that is now aware of itself as I am Sadashiva, this I will subside back into its own reality, but that is the rising I will subside back into the being I. That being I is the supreme being. That is what we actually are.
okay, so be it. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
Sanjay, please go ahead, sir, with your question.
So my question is on verse 73 of Akshara Manmalai. Arunachala, enchanting me by powder, the magic powder of your grace, robbing my bodha, my jiva bodha, you showed me your bodha, your Shiva bodha. This is verse 73, sir.
Podiyal Mayaki embodate paritu umbodate kartane arunachala. I've forgotten what paritu means. Yeah. Well, Podiyal Mayaki, that means that is there's a belief that but by some magic powder you can be enchanted by some for example, if someone wants to abduct a child, they give them some magic powder and they take them away for their whatever it may be. So Arunachala, with the magic powder of his grace, he has enchanted the mind of Bhagavan. And he's, I think paritu means he's robbed away his bodha, and he's robbed away Bhagavan's bodha, that means his mind, and he's shown his bodha, which is the pure awareness I.
Yes, sir, because I wanted to know about this, what is this magic powder? So that was my question.
It's you know, there are also sort of stories for children about some I mean, there must be so many stories like that in all cultures.
Some sort of drugs. Some sort of drugs.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So,
in Europe, there's a story of the Pied Piper of Hamelin.
Yes.
That is, one town was overrun by rats, and the people wanted to get rid of rats, and this Pied Piper, he was wearing colorful clothes, and he came with, and he said, I can take all the rats away, but you have to pay me something. I can't remember exactly what the story was. So he played his pipe and he took all the rats away. So he freed them of the trouble. But when he came back for his reward, they refused to give him anything. So then he played his pipe and he led all the children away. So like that, there's so many stories. So there's there's a traditional belief that by some magic power, some magicians or some evil people can take away children. So by what I'm saying, by the magic powder of your grace, you Mayaki means you deluded me, you enchanted me, it implies. You enchanted me by the magic powder of your grace. You robbed my mind, my bodha there means my mind, and you showed your bodha. The en bodha, my mind, means the jiva bodha, the jiva, the state of being a jiva, the jiva awareness. And you showed your bodha, that's the Shiva bodha, the real awareness, the pure awareness, which is God, which is Arunachala, Shiva.
Indeed, sir, it is a magic how Bhagavan has attracted us to.
It is entirely, it's the greatest magic of all.
Yes, because it's beyond our imagination where we
Yes.
were even about 20, 30 years back.
Yeah.
I would have been in a mental asylum, surely.
Yeah.
But for Bhagavan's teachings.
Yeah, yes, definitely,
So,
definitely.
yeah.
We're all in the same boat. He has saved us to this extent. He's not going to stop until he
Yes.
saves us completely.
Yes. So, sir, one more question I have, then I'll this thing in paragraph 9 of Nanar, Bhagavan says, because of the way in which the mind spreads out as innumerable thoughts, thereby scattering its energy, each thought becomes extremely weak.
Yes.
Shall I repeat this, sir? Yeah.
Yeah.
Each thought becomes extremely weak. What does it mean? Each thought becoming weak.
Okay, if we have so many interests in so many things, our mind is going here and there, we are not focused on anything. So that is, if we just see even from a worldly point of view, people who are very successful in any worldly thing, maybe a great sports person, a very good cricket player or football player or rugby player or something, they focus on that so much. A great musicians will be playing their instrument again and again and again. They're totally focused on that, so they become so great. But if you have a little interest in playing your musical instrument and some interest in watching cricket and some interest in politics and some interest in this and some interest in that, you're not going to flourish in anything. So it's the nature of the mind. The more scattered the mind is, the weaker each interest becomes. So the mind jumps from one subject to another subject to another subject, and particularly in the modern day world, we have so much distraction in the form of social media, websites, TV, all these cinema, all these things. So many things are there to scatter our mind in many directions, and then we're totally unfocused. So what Bhagavan is saying there, he's explaining the benefit of focusing on one thing, on the importance of ekagrata. Ekagrata means holding on to one. And that is, in any type of spiritual path, that one-pointedness is very necessary. If you're following the path of bhakti, you focus on one name and form of God. If you're following the path of yoga, you focus only on certain type of practice. So in any spiritual practice, the spiritual path is a movement from manyness to oneness. When people first start going to temple, they worship every god. They're interested in every god. Ganapati, Shiva, Devi, Mahavishnu, Krishna, Rama, Hanuman, they want to worship all the different gods and goddesses. But if this, what I can't get from this god, then maybe I'll get from this god. So their mind is very scattered. But as they mature in bhakti, they begin to be attracted to one name and form of God above all others. So their devotion becomes more one-pointed. And thus they gain ekagrata. And that we need to have that type of focus if we're to succeed in any endeavor. Not only a spiritual endeavor, in any type of endeavor, we need to have a certain focus. So the greatest endeavor of all is to investigate and know what we actually are. That requires great ekagrata, because we need to wean the mind off its interest in all other things, just to focus on knowing and being what we actually are. So this nama rupa upasana, this is an aid to Atma-vichara insofar as it cultivates that one-pointedness. But the important thing, you can cultivate one-pointed, you can be a scientist and cultivate one-pointed interest in understanding about subatomic particles or distant things. That's not going to help you in the spiritual path. But in the case of bhakti practices, your one-pointedness is accompanied by love. And so that is what you can then, when you come to understand that the God you love is what is ever shining in your heart as I, then your one-pointedness will switch from the name and form towards I, which is the reality of God.
So, sir, what Bhagavan is talking about here, about each thought becoming extremely weak, he's talking about each interest becoming extremely
Yes,
weak.
that our mind is scattered in many directions.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
was not clear to me. Each thought becoming extremely weak. Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. If you focus all your attention on one thought, if you have one thought, you want to become you're say you're learning to play a musical instrument. If you give up all other interests in life and you just want to perfect your skill at that instrument, that interest you have, that will become very strong, and you'll be able to perfect your skill in that. But if you're interested in many things, then you're dissipated and it all becomes weak. We can see that clearly in our own life in so many ways. The more the mind is dissipated, the weaker it becomes.
So Bhagavan is talking about ekagrata here, the one-pointed. That is the main thing.
Yes.
One-pointedness. That is.
He talks about ekagratanmai. That means the nature of being one-pointed.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you, sir.
Right.
Yeah. Question we have is from Kiran. Kiran, please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Yeah. Hi, Michael. So my question is like, Bhagwan says, regarding self-enquiry, no matter how many thoughts comes, we need to keep on inquiring to whom they come and so on, and to go deeper. So my question is, like in day-to-day life, there might come some situations where we are in a lot of dilemma or worry, and so many thoughts comes as to what decision to take, to go for one option or the other. Then, and those might be very critical decisions. So we spend a lot of time, to deliberating whether we should go ahead with the decision or not. So that time, like, as a practitioner, should I be deliberating on those, pros and cons and what needs to be done or not? Or like, should I just pause and try to, follow Bhagwan's way of teaching, to like whom this thought comes? So that's my dilemma.
Yes. Bhagavan has answered that in this question of yours. He's answered it in the 13th paragraph. He says, since one Parameshwara Shakti, one supreme ruling power or power of God, is driving all karyas, All karyas means whatever needs to happen, whatever needs or ought to be done or to happen. So since he's making everything happen as it's meant to happen, instead of we also yielding to it, why to be perpetually thinking it's necessary to do like this, it's necessary to do like that? So when we're in the situation in life where we don't know what decision to make, just leave it to him. He will make you make whatever decision it is necessary to make. Whatever happens, what is destined to happen, that is going to happen. So we think it all depends on us. So my decision in this situation is critical. I need to make the right decision. We are taking all the burden on ourselves. But Bhagavan says in the sentence before that, however much burden you place on God, he will bear all of it. So whenever you're faced with a dilemma in life, leave it to him. He has already decided what should happen. So if you leave it to him, he will make you make whatever decision needs to be made. That's why in the next sentence, he gives the analogy of a passenger traveling in the train. When we're traveling in a train, we know the train is carrying all the burden. It's carrying us and it's carrying all our luggage. So when we know that, why should we suffer carrying our luggage on our head instead of just putting it aside and traveling happily? So in that analogy, the train is Bhagavan's grace. That is carrying all the burdens. So when we know that his grace is carrying all the burdens, why should we worry about this or that? Why should we carry the burden of this world on our head? Whatever this is, that is, we think if I decide this, this is going to determine how things come out. It's already been decided how things are going to turn out. So leave it to him. He will make you make the decision.
Okay. Yeah. Like for
So
instance,
this is
practical.
very intimately connected with the other thing. So when you feel in a dilemma, how do you leave that burden to Bhagavan? How do you hand over the burden to Bhagavan? By investigating to whom is this dilemma? Who is concerned about this? Who is worrying about this? That doesn't mean asking the question. It means turning our attention back to ourselves to find out who is this I who is so agitated by this, so worried about this, so concerned about this. To the extent to which we turn our attention back towards that I, namely ego, will subside. And when it subsides, all its worries will subside along with it.
Right. So for instance, like I've been given 1 week's time and have been asked to make a major decision, and I to say yes or no, and I
Yes.
don't know what would be the right decision. So it's like, naturally for 1 week I'll be worrying if I say yes, this will happen. If I say something else will happen. So and then the final day comes and I'm still not sure. So it's like instead of worrying about that, I should just leave it and just wait for
Yeah,
my intuition
yes,
to
yes,
take
yes,
the decision on the final
yes,
day.
yes. If you leave
Mm,
the burden to him, he will make you
mm,
make whatever decision needs to be made.
mhm.
From a worldly point of view, that may be the wrong decision. But that you couldn't, the outcome would have happened anyway, whether you have made that decision or not. So you just don't have to worry about anything. We need to understand everything is happening according to prarabdha. So that means all the good things and all the bad things are according to prarabdha. But what do we mean by good things and bad things? We judge certain things and say, oh, this is good, this is bad. It's according to our likes and dislikes. But the truth is, whatever is happening by his grace and is therefore good. We may not
Mhm.
like it, but the problem is our likes and dislikes, not what is happening.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
So our surrender needs to be complete, unreserved surrender, completely without any reservation. We need to surrender. As Bhagavan sings beautifully in Arunachal Patikam, Ninishtam Enishtam, your wish is my wish. Imbadaku, that is happiness for me. So whatever you wish, I'm happy with that. So
If
let
you are
it be
not
the right
happy,
decision or the wrong decision. It's all right because it's all happening according to His grace, according to His will. Yes, sorry, Teru, I
no, and
interrupted you.
I was just adding on, like, even if we have a different will, anyway, it's going to happen as His will. So
Exactly.
there's no point in
Even
thinking
if we make the wrong decision, what is going to happen anyway. And if that is not the decision, if our decision is not in accordance with what is going to happen is going to happen in spite of our decision. So nothing matters. It all that matters is that we subside, that we surrender ourselves to Him by turning our attention back within.
Thank you, Michael.
Bhagavan's younger brother, Chinnaswami, had taken on himself the burden of managing the ashram. And he probably did as good a job as anyone would have done. I mean, nobody, in all these worldly undertakings, nobody can do things perfectly. But he had in addition to wanting to run the ashram, he also had a personal ambition of his own. He was very devoted to his mother, and he wanted to build a temple for his mother. So he had this ambitious plan. And by Bhagavan's grace, it happened, but it's a miracle because in those days in the ashram, they didn't have any. The ashram had absolutely no financial reserves or anything. What came that day got spent that day. So usually at the beginning of each work day, Chinnaswami wouldn't have enough money to pay the workers. So, and the workers they work on a coolie. That's a daily wage basis. So he needs to pay them at the end of every day. So he had so many worries about this, about how he's going to manage. And also, different devotees have different opinions. Many devotees were saying, oh, why to waste so much money on building this temple? It'd be better if we buy land and then we can cultivate paddy and then we can have enough food to feed any devotees who come. Everyone has their own opinion. So Chinnaswami was under a lot of pressure. And sometimes he found the situation he was in intolerable. But he was terrified of Bhagavan. He had great bhakti for Bhagavan, but it was Bhaya bhakti. He was really terrified of Bhagavan. So he would be afraid to approach Bhagavan himself. So he would send someone to go and plead with Bhagavan on his behalf. So one time when he was facing a lot of difficulties, and there were different opinions among devotees, there's shortage of funds, there's so many problems were there. So he sent someone to Bhagavan to ask for Bhagavan's advice and help or whatever. So this person came and told all that Chinnaswami had told him to tell Bhagavan. And Bhagavan said, that is, when Chinnaswami was a small boy, the pet name for him in the family was Pichan. So Bhagavan said, tell Pichan, let the temple be built or let it not be built. Let the ashram run or let the ashram not run. Nothing matters. His only responsibility is to keep his mind calm, keep his mind subsided. That applies, what Bhagavan said, that advice that Bhagavan gave for Chinnaswami, that applies to all of us. Everything is going to happen as it's going to happen. We may have so many aims and ambitions in life, but nothing happens according. I mean, nothing is going to happen just because we want it to happen. Things happen as they're meant to happen. How was that Atma-vichara temple built? It's a miracle. I mean, the ashram they literally had no money. Day to day, there was never, I mean, they didn't know what money is coming in each day. And Bhagavan had very strictly said, don't collect any money in my name. So how that temple was built, it was divine will, but that should be built, and so it was built. Just by Bhagavan sitting there, all this ashram grew up around him. Bhagavan had no desire for any ashram. Just by his mere being there, all these buildings came up, this temple came up, everything happened. So we need to learn that nothing depends upon us. Everything is happening according to the divine grace, according to the grace of Bhagavan.
Yeah, so Michael, this is very opposite to the contrary to all the philosophy of positive affirmations. Like they keep saying, if we positively affirm, I will achieve this, I will become.
Yes, it is completely opposite of that. All this power of attraction and the secret and all these things. There is a grain of truth in that. As you think, so you will become. But where they go wrong is that is what they say is if you think positive, what they call positive thoughts, that means if you think that you're always going to have a lot of money and you always think like that, then money will somehow come. It's true in a way. If you think of something, eventually that will come to be, but not necessarily in this lifetime, because what is to be in this lifetime is already predetermined. So if you're destined to be a pauper in this lifetime, if you're destined to be always short of money, however much you do positive thinking, it's not going to make any difference. You're going to be a pauper throughout your life. But if your mind is always thinking about money, I must have more money, I must have more money, that may bear fruit in some future life where you'll be born in very favorable circumstances, and you may be born in a wealthy family, or even if you're not born in a wealthy family, the circumstances are such that you get all the wealth you wanted. So yes, what you think of, that is, you do attract things to you by thinking of them, but not in this lifetime. There's a story I remember I think it's mentioned in the Gospel of Ramakrishna. There was a devotee of Ramakrishna who was very interested in departed spirits. And he was very interested in all this, people do these seances to contact the departed spirits. Ramakrishna one day said to him, if you think of ghosts, you'll become a ghost. If you think of God, you'll become God. So we should be very careful what we think of. So if we want to have positive thoughts, let's have positive thoughts about God, who is ever shining in our heart as eye. Is that clear?
Yeah, Michael. Thank you.
I think we have another question from Chandra Shekaran. So he says, if it is already answered in yesterday's call, we don't have to answer it again. I don't know, Michael. I was not in that call. Yeah. So the question is, Michael, please expand on what he means by the clarity of awareness. Does he mean the teaching becoming clearer as one turns within? Or does it mean we get more intuition of the existence awareness? But then cannot be perceived. So I'm a bit confused.
Yeah, okay. Clarity, there are different levels of clarity. The ultimate clarity, the purnatvam, the fullness of clarity, is the clarity of pure awareness. But in this path, as we go deeper and deeper in this path, we gain more and more clarity. As our mind dwells on Bhagavan's teaching, the meaning and implication of Bhagavan's teachings become clearer and clearer. As we focus more and more on attending to ourselves, we get more and more clarity from within. Because what is the source of all clarity? Clarity is what is shining in our heart as the pure awareness I am. The more we attend to that pure awareness I am, the more our mind will be thereby purified and clarified. So clarity expresses itself at many different levels, but the deepest clarity is the clarity, the source of all clarity lies deep within us. So the more we turn our attention within, the more we'll be bathing our mind in that clarity.
He also says awareness cannot be perceived. So
awareness cannot be perceived. Is that?
Yeah. He says. Sorry, Chandrasekharan. If you want, you can please go ahead and clarify the question.
Yeah, I was just saying that that clarity is not anything like a perception of the true reality, right? Because true reality is not an object of perception, so we can't perceive it. And so I guess what you're saying is the clarity is basically the clarity of the teaching.
That statement, awareness cannot be perceived. What does that mean? Yes, awareness cannot be perceived as an object. But we know awareness just by being awareness. That is, we are all aware. So we know awareness by being that which is aware. So we cannot know the reality as an object. So what is, for example, called tattva darshanam, seeing the reality, is nothing but seeing ourselves as we actually are. And we see ourselves as we actually are by being what we actually are.
Well, that makes sense. Thank you, Michael.
Right. In the Sanskrit version of verse 16 of Upadeshundya, Upadeshasaram, Bhagavan says, Drisya varitum, withdrawn from Drisya, Chittam Atmanaha Chitva-darshanam. The mind, Chittam, seeing its own Chitva. It's Atmanaha means its own. Chitva means awareness, its own nature of awareness. Chitva-darshanam, Tattva-darshanam. That is seeing the reality. So how do we see our own awareness? We can see our own awareness only by being our own awareness. That's why Bhagavan says in verse 26 of Upadeshundya, Tanai iritale, tanai aritalam. Being oneself alone is knowing oneself. Tani rendatradal, because oneself is not two. There's not one self to see another self. There's not one awareness to see another awareness. We know pure awareness by being pure awareness. That's why Bhagavan often used to say, Jnana me jnani. Jnana alone is the jnani. Jnana means pure awareness. Jnani means what knows pure awareness. What knows pure awareness is only pure awareness. So people have a very wrong idea of jnana. They think, they say, this person is self-realized. This person isn't self-realized. No person is self-realized. There's no such thing as a self-realized person. We know that pure awareness just by being pure awareness. So long as we think I am a person, we are not knowing ourselves as we actually are. So what knows pure awareness is only pure awareness. That's why I said in the Upanishad, the knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. But it's not even a matter of becoming. Knowing Brahman means being Brahman. We can know Brahman only by being Brahman. And how to be Brahman? By not rising as I. As Bhagavan says in verse 27 of Uludunapadu, Nanu diada ullanile, namaduvai ullanile. The state in which I is without rising is the state in which we are that meaning Brahman. So in order to be Brahman, we need to cease rising as ego. So how to cease rising as ego? In the next sentence he says, without investigating the place where I rises, how to how to reach the annihilation of oneself in which I does not rise. Investigating the place where I rises, he uses the word place there in a metaphorical sense. It means the source from which I rises. Where does I rise? From where does ego rise? Ego is the adjunct conflated awareness I am this body. It raises only from the pure awareness I am. So we have to investigate this fundamental awareness I am, and thereby we will achieve the annihilation of ourself. That means the annihilation of ego, and that is the state in which I doesn't rise. That is the state of being Brahman.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you.
I've got one question, sir, if you want. Sir, sir,
go
one
ahead.
question.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, your last question for the day. Yes, sir, in this in this paramount importance of self-attention, on the 23rd of December 1977, Sadhu Om said here, once a PWD inspector asked Bhagavan, how can we live a pure life in this world? And he replied, you know the Natan Kal, a standing stone fixed at a road junction we have in our villages in the Madurai district. See how many uses it has. Villagers place their head loads on it when they take rest. Cows use it as a scratching post. Beetle chewers wipe their surplus chunam, lime paste on it, and others spit on it. We must live in this world like those Natan Kal. What exactly is what exactly Sadhu Om is saying here, sir?
Well, but that's what Bhagavan, he's just saying what Bhagavan said. What Bhagavan is saying, when we live in this world, we face so many things. We face so many, there'll be some people who like us, some people who dislike us, some people who abuse us, some people who praise us. There'll be people who take advantage of us, use us for their own ends. We should be completely indifferent to whatever happens. Just like that Natan Kal, it remains standing there. Whatever, whether the beetle chewer wipes his surplus chunam on it or spits his red saliva on it, or whether the cows scratch on it or the cows get tied to it, or whether people place head loads on it, or whatever it is, it just remains there unmoved. Indirectly, Bhagavan is referring there to the state of sthita prajna. Just being established in one's own being and unaffected by the world. Towards the end of the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asked Krishna about the state of sthita prajna. That is the state where Bhagavan is. He's using that Natan Kal as an analogy for that sthita prajna state.
We should become like Natan Kal, he's saying that.
But we should be completely different to however the world treats us. We shouldn't be concerned. One day people may praise us, another day people may abuse us. What does it matter? We need to be fixed in ourselves.